going to take them just over 7 minutes to complete the course. At the edge of the woody grotto, there's a harrowing dance down a straight single track. And then after that, a long escarpment into the finish. This is an epic course, a classic truly for the final of the downhill at Kaprun. So far, the rider's been taking part in the preliminaries. We had 297 riders who entered. Of those 297, 50 qualified for the semi-finals. Semi-finalists will come down the course in reverse order. And we've got here the helicopter stretching off one of the riders, or are they doing a practice run? I'm not quite sure at the moment, but just while they're doing that, let me tell you that we're watching 50 riders, or at least the best part of 50 riders. The man who went off at just on 12 o'clock as we start our program, and then at 12:02 and then 12:05, they're going between 2 and 3 minute intervals. With a bit of luck, the Brits, we might just about see Jason McCroy, who set off at 20th start at 11:59. And in fact, look at my watch now, Mark, it says about, 6 minutes past, so Jason might be down the bottom of the hill. We're not certain at the moment, though, where they've stopped the racing and they're taking this rider off. This is one of the problems of downhill racing. This course, 6.8 kilometres, is 4.5 miles. The fastest time we had so far is Miles Rockwell in the semi-final, 7 minutes and 2.91 seconds. Now, 40 miles an hour is 6 minutes and 45 seconds. So Miles was just outside 40 miles an hour, average speed for the 4.5 miles down. So you can see that if these riders come up, they're going to be touching something like 60 miles an hour on certain parts of the course, and that's when they have the accidents. But Mark, they wear the right equipment now, don't they? Crash hats and everything else, so we keep our fingers crossed for them.
Oh, most of the riders have got to wear that sort of equipment. They've gone so far now with speed, technology. The bikes can go that fast now, so the riders have to be equipped to do that sort of thing, David. And it would be a foolish rider, especially on some of these courses, not to wear any equipment.
And not only that, some of the riders in coming down in the qualifying times and the semi-final. We noticed Nicky Vuillot, by the way, in 18th spot in the semi-finals at the moment. And the French were telling us, by the way, Mark, that that's maybe pretty well par for the course for him. He's got to be in with a chance for the top 3 placing.
Oh, definitely. I mean, he's a very calculating young rider. I mean, despite his age, he is very mature. And as you say, speaking to some of our French colleagues, he tends to do this sort of things in the semi-final runs. He doesn't really like going off last. He saves his energy for the main run, which is quite a wise thing to do, of course.
Well, the last man will be Miles Rockwell to go down the track, who's set the fastest time so far of 7 minutes 2.91 seconds. That's the fastest man. And amazing, a chap called Marcus Fruwith was second fastest in the semi-final this morning, 7 minutes 4.24. Marcus Fruwith, who won the Swiss Tour just recently, and he's sort of burst on the scene, hasn't he, Mark? We weren't expecting him to be up in the top 3.
I must admit, actually, David, that we don't really know a great deal about the man. He won the. He's actually Austrian, I think you'll find.
Yep.
He won the Austrian Downhill Championship last year.
Yep.
And as you say, he's burst onto the scene with this fabulous run in the semi-finals. I mean, he's only 1.3 seconds behind Rockwell. Marvellous riding, really. He did actually, as you say, he won, I think, a stage, or he won the Swiss...
The overall Swiss Open, yeah.
Overall Swiss
Tour, yeah.
Off-road tour. So he's obviously got some class. It's just that we haven't seen a great deal of him.
No, and he's surprised then because King is back in 3rd spot in the semi-finals this morning. And the other man who could be tipped for a good position, Gachet, who won last year the Grundig World Cup, is a 4th fastest at the moment. So we're going to have a real cliffhanger at the end of this one, aren't we? But
oh, surely.
Sad to see the rider being helicoptered off here from the course. We don't know yet who it is, and in fact it's probably just well not to know who it is because we don't know the extent of the damages, and often it looks a lot worse than it actually is, and they take him off to hospital. But just shows the backup you have to have for an event of this nature. Downhill racing really has accelerated over the years. In fact, a bit of bad luck to you follows of Greg Herbold, by the way. He finished 104th and hasn't qualified. Greg now must be about 33, 34, and it's sad to see him. He said he's retired today, Mark.
Yeah, he's... Not to say
a bit over the hill, yes.
He's a bit over the hill, yeah. Not down the hill, over the hill. But yes, he's 33 odd now. He won the World Championships back in 1990, the first downhill World Championships. he's managed to hang in there with a lot of these riders, but I think he's quite wise now. When you've got people like Nicolas Voulois and some of the other French riders particularly, I mean, they're just fabulous.
Yep.
I think he's retiring gracefully, actually, Davey.
Well, he's also going back to a lot of testing because he's been very responsible for many of the innovations. I mean, he won his first event way back in about 1985 or thereabouts, like 10 years back since he won his first race as such. And Greg, I've had a chat to him in Paris earlier this year, and he was carrying on doing a lot of development work. In fact, he's working with Giro on a new helmet at the moment, which is lighter than a Kevlar one and a lot stronger full-face helmet.
A bit like John Tomac, really.
The crowd then waiting here for the racing to recommence as the rider is being helicoptered off. What number was that, please? Well, we've now got on your screen the information that it's number 10, Todd Tanner, that has in fact come down with a big bang. He was the second off this morning, and the USA rider here, well, that's a great disappointment at the moment for Todd Tanner to crash like that. He's lying 10th overall in the Grundig Mountain Bike World Cup, and you've been watching him this year. He was going to be a star man, although he didn't do a very good semi-final time, 7:31. He's obviously trying flat out then.
Obviously trying flat out, David. I mean, he won the round at Mount Snow in the USA, and in fact last year he was on the Specialized B squad rather than the A squad, and he had such a good year. He came 5th overall in the World Cup. They promoted him to the A squad, and unfortunately it looks like he's had a serious problem here today.
Well, that of course is the risk, I suppose. He was what, 49th. He was the second man to go down the track. I wonder if had a very fast time indeed. He's just lost it now. A great shame then here in the Grundig World Cup, the downhill final, to have Todd Tanner not only out the race but helicoptered off as well to hospital.
Very sad indeed. I mean, as you say, he's a fabulous rider, and this type of course actually would quite suit him. Very strong. A lot of Americans are, as you'd expect, they're big and strong riders. They don't tend to like the technical courses in Europe. But this course, although it has technical sections on it, it does have some flat-out speed-type parts of the course, and that would suit him.
Well, there goes Todd Tanner, the 26-year-old from Provo in Utah, America, riding for the Specialized team, and a great disappointment to see him go. He likes high-speed courses, and he'd already shown that he was going to have a challenge for a top 3 places, and there he goes into distance across the mountains. Just give you some idea of the grandeur of this part of the world of Austria. Kaprun being used in the past several times for the Grundig World Cup. Not in the World Cup series next year, by the way. There's been quite a change in the arrangement for next year. The World Cup will be out there. First of all, the first of the downhill one's going to be Serra Nevada in Spain. Then we're going to Livigno, and then the third one will be at Mount Saint Anne, and then off to the east coast of America for the 4th. The 5th will be at Leggett, and the 6th will be at Hawaii. So next year we might be having a bit of sunshine in Hawaii rather than stuck up in Austria for these spectators here waiting for the recommencement of the races. That's going to put us down a bit, by the way, and I don't quite know what they're going to do with this, because one thing about downhill racing, it does mean that we should be finishing. And looking here at the start list, the last man to go would be off Miles Rockwell at 12 and a half minutes after 1 o'clock, and that takes him about 7 minutes to go down, so there'll be 20 past 1. We should have been finishing because the Grand Prix starts immediately after our live program. Those who are listening to any of the edited versions, please excuse me, but on the live program this Sunday afternoon, we're going to get very close up against the Grand Prix, unless they reduce the timing. And I hope they try and get the timings back on order, because there are gaps between 2.5 minutes each of the riders are coming down, and that may give them a chance then of catching back the time. We'll have to wait and see then, as our next rider on the start line at the moment, number 62, ready to go. There we are. So Moreno on the way, the Spanish rider on the track now. Todd Tanner helicoptered off to hospital.
This is one rider we don't know a great deal about, actually, David. He's had one result so far in the World Cup this year. He came 25th at Cap d'Aille on that very technical course. But apart from that, he's a bit of an enigma for us.
And it looks like he's not really taking off at the moment, Mark.
I think his chain has come off, actually, David. Yes, definitely. Got problems there. He wasn't taking that too seriously.
I wonder what he's sort of doing his little bunny hops on the way down. So the rider here, number 62, Olego Moreno, has now Let's have a look at this one again.
Yep, you can see his chain flapping about there.
It's quite remarkable because many of the downhillers now, underneath the rear stay, they have that device which actually holds the chain up, doesn't it, to stop it? He hasn't even bothered to do that. It's quite remarkable.
That's right. It's some of them are called DCDs.
Explain.
Dave's chain device.
Nothing to do with me.
But as you say, yeah, it keeps the chain on. I'm surprised he's not using one.
Bastebever underway now then, the Dutch rider from the Batava squad accelerating. We can see the difference here between him and Olego Moreno, who just had that misfortune with his chain to drop that one. Bastebever wearing these shin guards. And using what seems to be very much a downhill speciality, these what I call quarterized bars to make a much more upright position than the flat bars they normally use on the cross country.
That's right, they have a completely different riding style and position. The bars, as you say, are almost sort of quarter length, but they also sit lower on the bike as well. And as you can see, a lot of these riders are quite big, and which is fairly obvious, I suppose, because I mean, weight is not a disadvantage going downhill.
But Nicky Vulo's quite a light little lad, though, isn't he? So I mean, he uses a lot of skill, doesn't he? As many of these ex-BMX riders, they manage to keep their bikes on the ground a lot further, don't they?
Well, there he goes against the trend. I mean, that's the thing with Vulo. He's just so skillful, so mature for his age. He's just got the guts to do this sort of thing.
Watching then. Van den Hattered from the Netherlands, two of the Batavus riders actually going in sequence behind each other because it's road time trial. They split them up. They don't have the same men from each team going in a time run, but in downhill like this, it doesn't matter. There's no way in which you can be edged on by your teammate. And 6:06 then the time for Van den Hattered. That can't be right.
No. 6:14 there, 6:14.4 for Van der Hartred there, David.
Now, there's something wrong because the time have so far 7 minutes and 2. Yeah, that's it, 7:13.68. We got it now. Right, Hope. Sorry about that, viewers, because I was suddenly scratching my head. I thought, actually, he set a record for this course, 7:13.68. In fact, he's gone faster than his semi-final. We did 7:24.16, if we're to believe that one on the time clock on there. So we'll have to watch that time clock coming up. And the fastest time so far, Miles Rockwell, 7:02.91 is the one to watch out for. They're picking up on the course again now, Bastebever.
Trying to keep the bike on the ground for as long as possible here, I think. What a compact riding style. Bastebever, big guy. Don't look as though they're going that fast, but believe me, these guys are.
Well, that's it. You imagine 40 miles an hour is 6 minutes and 45 seconds. So he's just mere 25 seconds outside 40 miles an hour.
Good ride from Bastebever there. But they had, as you say, they have taken out some of the uphill sections on this course, so their times are quicker this year than last year and the year before.
Yes, but the time last year when Gachet won, it was 9 minutes 2.59. So now this is our friend who took his chain off then, Olego Moreno. He's decided he's paid his money, he might as well come all the way down, get his money's worth anyway.
Press the sponsors anyway.
Yeah, he's riding for Tioga. That used to be John Tomac's old team. Now he switched to Giant. In fact, John Tomac not here. Let me also tell you while I was watching this chap drift down that in the semi-final, Benneker, a previous champion for the Grundig World Cup, was in fact 58th, 7 minutes 35.08. So he hasn't qualified. Another man who we expect to do well, who actually qualified 7th, was Bononomi, but he came 68th in the semi-final. So two of the top people are out of it. And Bononomi, we're expecting, and Benneker to do quite well in the overall.
Indeed, I mean, Benneker won the World Cup in '93, and he won here in '93 as well in the final. So, I mean, this course, he would love it. And as you say, Bononomi doing very well. He's high, one place higher in the World Cup standings than Benneker, so they must have had problems.
Yep, so 8th and 9th overall in the World Cup, have not managed to qualify for the final day, and all those points at stake, so they could find the situation changing quite a bit.
This is Austrian rider Christoph Ries riding here. Number 70. Oh, gets sideways down there. We've had some fog on the course today, and this is going to make the ground quite wet.
This goes always a problem too, is your tyre pressures, isn't it? Because if you pump them up too hard, you slide like that. If you let them too soft, you're slow on the fast parts. It's a dilemma, isn't it?
And if you have them too soft as well on the rocky sections, then you're liable to puncture. So it really is a question of a compromise.
Let's see which way he's going. Most of the fast men coming on the left-hand side here. Oh, there we are. That's the problem. Taco your wheel, and there she goes.
He's still going to finish though. He'll run all the way down, I think, there, David.
And the crowd loving it. You can see how steep it is now. He's starting to run down. It's difficult to describe the steepness of this drop. Let's just give you some idea. He could hardly stand upright. There's Christoph Rie then from Austria, and the Austrians just giving it a round of applause for managing to get down through here. So he's nowhere going to do his best time so far. He did 7:23 in qualifying. He was the 26th fastest in qualifying. And now coming down here, this Karim Amour, the French rider from the Peugeot team. He qualified in the semi-finals 7:22.
Brilliant French rider, 18 and 19 years old actually, rides for Peugeot Saxe. Came third in the Junior Worlds at Metabier, so he's got some talent. Shoots over the line there, 7:13.29.
And that's a lot faster than his time in the semi-finals when he did 7:22. So a lot of these riders have saved something for the final. Is nearly 9 seconds quicker on that unusual Peugeot. We're going to see so many different bikes, more than you can shake a stick at here in terms of front and rear suspension, particularly changes at the rear. And just look at that Peugeot there with the strut going across where the pivot point moves against the seat tube to strengthen it. But of course they don't bother much about the weight, providing the damn thing works.
They're not bothered about the weight actually, David. In fact, last year when Voulois rode here, he rode a stiff rear end. He said that he wanted the rear end to be as stiff as possible so that he could really put the hammer down on the fast sections of the course. And this is Cyril Lagnier, another one of the French riders on the start.
A bit slow into the cliffless pedals, then his foot bounced, he went round the corner. And this rider, weighing number 21, was 23rd fastest in qualifying in the semi-finals as such. He did 7:21.19, and that was faster than his qualifying time of 7:25.30. So he's already gone 4 seconds faster in the semi-finals compared with his qualifying time. And we've got a 7:13 to beat at the moment. Let's see if he can get inside that one. They're all going about 5 or 6 seconds faster, providing it down there in one piece, of course.
Of course, yeah. It takes a very wide line on that corner.
And this gives you again some idea of how steep this descent is. 804 meters the actual drop from top to bottom in the 6.8 kilometers. And our slow-mo picking up the style of this rider coming down.
Keeping his weight over the back of the bike there. He wants to keep that back wheel as firmly on the ground as possible. And this is where they've really got to make up the speed. This is something that will suit the American riders, as we said before.
And there you can see on his chain, we were talking about that device to stop the chain jumping as it runs back to the big chain ring to the back end. That's one chap has realised that it can jump all over the place and has done the right thing. Have a look again at the style then of Cyril Lagnier.
And that was one of the last remaining uphill sections on the course there, I think, David.
And a pretty fast one too.
Rides for the same team as our cross-country rider Gary Ford for Scott International.
Not only in the bike business, in fact Scott have recently bought the big American company as well, after the Schwinn family as such has run into trouble. So that's why of course we see Tim Gould riding for the Schwinn operation. It's part of the Scott organisation who decided to keep Tim on the road as well. And Scott, I won't say newcomers to the bike business, they've been around an awful long time now, but of course they're into ski poles and everything else as well. Yeah. It's just not just bicycles. Very, very profitable company indeed. Here then still Cyril Lagnier coming down.
Doesn't look as though he's going that fast, but believe me, this guy is. Knee out style, much like the motorcycle riders on the Grand Prix circuit. Any straight section, they really want to make up their time, but they've got to be careful on these corners.
So coming in then, going to get inside the 7:13, we're going to get a single figure. 7:11.08 the time then for Cyril Lagnier.
Second place so far.
Slow motion replay of Bruno Chan, the Swiss rider, on his way down. The Yeti rider, 17th in qualifying and 21st in the semi-finals. This the downhill World Cup final, the Grundig World Cup round 6 in the series. The big guns will start firing later on. We're going to see last off will be Miles Rockwell. Mike King is last but 2 off. Gachet, Deaton, all familiar names to followers of downhill mountain biking, but we're watching some of the other riders here trying to pull something out of the bag and just surprise a few of the top men. But this sport calls for a lot of skill, a lot of experience over the years, and really it's going to be the back end of the race when the whole interest is going to happen. We haven't yet got Jason McCroy's time. He actually qualified. He was in 31st place in the top 15 going into semi-finals, and he finished 19th in the qualifying too. So unfortunately, we haven't got Jason's time, but we've got 3 Brits at the moment, Mark, in the race, haven't we? Jason McCroy's finished. We look forward to seeing Rob Warner and Steve Peat come down.
That's right. Rob Warner will be going off 12th from last, and Steve Peat 10th. Jason recently second in the National Championships at Shrewsbury to Will Longdon, who's not racing today, but he's a great prospect for the future. Rides for Rocky Mountain.
And you saw on the screen then that Bas de Bever has set the fastest time so far. That was the man we watched coming on down earlier on, and let's see if his time can be toppled now by the later riders. That's the usual way it goes, quicker and quicker all the way through. And there's quite a hell of a difference between qualifying here, because the man who was in 50th spot, 7 minutes and 31 seconds, compared with Miles Rockwell's 7:02. So there's something like a gap of some 29 seconds between the fastest and the slowest.
It looked like 7:14 there for Chance, but I'm not quite sure about that, David. I don't know whether he's got a problem with his bike or with his lungs.
And Marcus Pechny coming down, 182. The numbers relate to their position in the World Cup or so. You have some idea of this particular chap, 182, has now got in. In fact, he finished 20th in the semi-finals, Marcus Pechny from Austria. And the Austrians already delighted with the performance of Marcus Fruith. So, of course, they've been able to come up here and test the course and practice on him.
Exactly. I mean, this is what happens when you have riders. I mean, it's like Nicolas Boulois at Cap d'Aille. I mean, he lives right near the course, and he was at the first round of the World Cup this year. He was something like 14 seconds in front of Mike King, his teammate. So it does help local knowledge.
And it also happens at Cap d'Aille to have absolutely no brains at all. Now, I'm thinking ridiculous about him, but that to me, if you drop off the edge of that one, you're in the Mediterranean, aren't you? Listen, this side, you're bouncing down the hillside.
That's what makes me wonder about someone like Francois Gachet, because he's that much older than Nicolas Boulois. He's about 28 years old. You'd expect him to have a little bit more upstairs.
Yeah. Well, he's a madman, actually, because he's a great motorcyclist as well. A rock drummer and a band as well. So, Gachet, I suppose if you've been brought up on rock music and drumming, then you're prepared to throw your bike down the hills. And again, looking at Marcus Pechny here on his way down the slope. And in fact, we're talking about Nicolas Boulois. He's going off in about another 5 minutes or so. Probably a bit less than that now, back up on the top of the mountain. And the next one who should be coming down, whilst we're certainly here watching the Austrian rider, because we're in Austria, or the race is coming from Austria, Christian Taillefer. We'd like to see him come down, because record holder on the downhill mountain bike, and then Nicolas Boulois. So we've got 2 very, very quick riders yet to come.
Yeah. But this rider looks quite smooth on the course now. Not as big as some of the riders we've seen today. Sometimes his power to weight ratio is very good. Looks very fast. Sitting in the saddle, keeping his style there. Quite composed. You notice he's got the protective padding on his back there.
Well, so far hasn't needed. His suspension's working overtime too as he plummets the line.
Good ride from Pechny there. And this is Christian Taillefer there.
The rider from the Peugeot squad on his way down. He's been around a long time in downhill racing as well. Christian Taillefer on his way here, punching around that bike. This is a man that set the downhill record. I think it's gone since then. That was on the ice when he came down, an unusual bike with a special skin suit and a fair-in helmet on him. These are very difficult conditions and different conditions here as well, but I was talking to him a bit back, and he said that it's all very much to do with psychology too, particularly that downhill thing he went, because you've got to concentrate your mind on what you've got to do, and you must have no fear, and you must take that fear out from your mind. And this man, Christian Tyler, is a very deep thinking man. He's also very interested in engineering, because much of the work on that downhill bike, he had a hand in it, and here he comes down the course now at the moment.
As you say, I think in a lot of these downhill courses, David, I mean, these guys really have to focus themselves. They've got to block out any sort of mental scar they have from the course if they came off in practice. They've really got to get into the zone, as the Americans like to put it.
And Tyler on his way down in qualifying, he was 11th fastest, 7:16.05, and in getting into the final here, in his semi-final time, it was 7 minutes 18.02. Let's see if he can get in the top 10.
He actually does still hold the speed record for off-road. He updated it from 147 kilometres an hour to 178.66. Now that is truly amazing.
I think that translated about 111 miles an hour, if I remember correctly. I did my arithmetic when he did it.
Incredible stuff. ...24 years old, and he loves speed. So this type of course would suit him quite well, actually, David. Came third at the Worlds in '92 behind Dave Cullinan.
And Dave, of course, sidelined with his heart problems, isn't he? Yeah. Great disappointment he's not here.
Though he did ride at Big Bear in the last round, but he didn't. I'm not sure what happened to him there, but he was way down the field. Talifa is 9th overall in the World Cup last year, so he's obviously got some class.
Let's see if we're going to get him inside the 7:10. Is he going to make it? They'll all be going that quickly. There he is. Yes, he's first. 7:05.53. That is Christian Tyler, who's come down something like about 13 seconds faster than his time so far. And Christian Tyler is now in the lead. And here we're now looking at Nicholas Villa, the other man who's tipped to go to the top.
You'll see a good time here, David. Nicholas Villa's so fast, so smooth.
And the time to beat then, 7:05.53 for this fellow. In qualifying, he was second fastest, 7:03.83. But in the semi-final, he came down in 7 minutes and 17 seconds. He just took it a little bit easy. Now he's just got to throw everything to the wind and hammer down here. This young talent, he's been able, as a junior too, to beat the seniors as well. He's got tremendous talent. Is he going to get faster than Christian Tyler? The time to beat, 7:05.53.
Don't forget, he's equal on points with Mike King, so this is all important. He's got to do a fabulous ride here. 168 points.
And after that victory at Kapdal, went on, took a second place in Sweden, second place in Canada. What's he going to do today?
Even on a course like Mount Snow, which is a really, really fast course, he came 6th. So despite the fact that he was at a disadvantage there, he knows how to ride fast. Lithe sort of rider, very controlled, very mature.
And an unusual bike here with a bent seat tube. We've not seen one quite like that before. This is one of the GT bikes. They keep inventing new bikes, these GT field. GT doesn't stand for Gran Turismo, it stands for Gary Turner, the man who started out with GT BMX bikes. He built one for his son in his shed virtually, and went on to have one of the most successful bike companies in America. And here he is sponsoring this young flying Frenchman.
And as we said earlier, actually, David, he is actually riding a fully suspended bike today, whereas last year he had that stiff rear end.
Can he get inside that 7:05.53? Getting close to finish. He's got about half a second left. So half a minute left. This is a real quick part of the course. There's a sharp right-hander, and he nearly lost it.
Didn't it hang out there? Speedway style. This is what he's got to do. Yes, he looks like he's going to top it. Fabulous stuff, excellent.
53.40, the first man to get inside 7 minutes. And let me remind you, as we're going back up here to look at Palmissa, that to do this course in 6 minutes and 45 seconds is 40 miles an hour. He's just a sniff, and Nat Swisker, 8 seconds outside 40 miles an hour. And we saw parts that where he's on the brakes and on the flat, so just imagine how fast he was going on some of the downhill bits.
Oh, unbelievable. I'd love to see a timing gun on some of the faster sections here.
It's got to be 55, 60 miles an hour in some places.
I mean, they do it in America, they have timing guns. In fact, I think at one of the American rounds last year. Jason McCroy, British rider, he was timed as the fastest rider. It'll be interesting to see here. Pal Misser, the younger brother of Tommy Misser, who came second in the Junior World Championships a few years ago. Both very talented riders. Both compete in the dual slalom racing as well, which is very wild. Americans love that, naturally, of course. He's tended to stand in his pedals a lot more than Voulois there. Saving his energy for the uphill sections, I think, David.
This is it?
Yeah. Sort of thing that the British rider Rob Warner would do, actually.
And he's riding here with a disc brake on the back. I've noticed already one rider come down with disc brakes front and rear, but he's chosen just to have it on the back, which is rather unusual because most of your braking goes on the front wheel, and therefore the more efficient it is at the front. But there again, many of the riders also using these hydraulic brakes, but he looks like he's on Shimano side pulls, normal sorts of brakes rather than the hydraulics here. But certainly the disc brake at the back, Sachs have been doing a lot of work in that area too, and many of the riders favouring the disc brake for that extra retention. There is confirmation, then Voulo the leader, Chalifer second. Our leader Baz de Bever has been pushed back into third spot. Voulo's time 6 minutes 53.40.
Yeah, very surprising actually, that disc brake. Oh look, he's had problems there. Took the corner too wide and just lost the back wheel. Probably that too powerful disc brake actually, Dave.
Skidded him out, didn't it?
Yeah, I mean, as you say, it'd be better to have the disc brake on the front.
I think something like 60% of your braking efficiency on the front, 65% on the bicycle, and of course slamming the back wheel on the brake hard, it can flick out and away you go. Of course, the advantage of these very powerful brakes is you can come down with your hands on the handlebars and just touch the brakes with just a couple of fingers and keep control of the bike as well. The way it buffets up and down, you can't just put all your fingers onto the brakes and apply them. Here we go, the time 6:53.40 to beat. He's not going to get it, but let's see where he goes now. Oh. Second, 6:59, another one inside 7 minutes. What would have happened if he hadn't had that trouble?
He will be very, very disappointed with that. I think he should have a word with his bike manufacturer, actually, Davey.
And his bike manufacturer could tell him to go a bit slower around the bends, I expect. Well, he's puffing and panting. Just show you, it isn't all just a matter of sitting there and flying down. He rides to the Volvo Cannondale company. Again, Cannondale, one of the earliest into the manufacture of aluminium mountain bikes some years ago, getting also the sponsor from the car company. Back up the top then to... there he goes.
Poussin, teammate of Francois Gachet, and another one of these fabulous French riders. They really are so good at downhill racing now.
And Poussin again came in through BMX. He was a world champion and a French champion at BMX as well, so he has got a lot of talent when it comes to handling a bike, and we'll probably see his style later on, because these BMX riders, you can see the difference in them, can't you? They're trying to keep the bike on the ground a lot more.
Yeah.
They learn that, don't they, on the berms? They come over the top, they push the bike down to keep pedalling.
That's right, and if you notice, Poussin has got a disc brake on the front, which I think is a little bit wiser than Pal Misser.
And let's see if we can get inside that 7 minute. They really are throwing caution to the wind now. When you think that Voulo has come down something like about 6 seconds faster than his fastest time so far, and Pal Misser certainly again surprised everybody. He was 18 seconds faster than his semi-final time, so it just shows there is a lot more to go for some of these riders when it comes to the final.
Very surprising result there with Pal Misser. It makes you wonder if Voulois had a problem up the top, because he usually is so much faster than a lot of these riders. It also makes you wonder what people like Gachet and Deaton and Rockwell are going to do.
Right, of course, they stay upright, and sympathy extended to Todd Tanner, who was helicoptered off the course. If you haven't been watching the whole programme on Eurosport, one of our riders, Todd Tanner, who we're expecting great things of, he was second man to start, had a very nasty accident and got himself helicoptered away. We haven't got any information about his condition at the moment, but disappointing for him. We were looking for him to probably being up in the top 10 anyway, and he now not taking any further part in the race.
Just looking at the style of Poussin. As you say, he's keeping most of the wheels on the ground.
The thing about these mountain bike BMX riders, so they leave a lot of space. They have the saddle quite low, don't they? And their knees are bent. They're able to sort of sit down on the bike rather than in a normal, what I call, riding position. A lot of them have the saddle quite low.
It gives them a lot more control on the bends, especially. They can, as you can see there, he's hanging his legs out. I mean, if he had the saddle at a normal type of height, brilliant round that bend. That's where the mistake that Misser made.
And he's also on trainers. I'm sure he's got like the old Shimano DX BMX pedals on, because a lot of them prefer double-sided pedals and not to go to... We'll have to try and see if we can spot this one, but so many of the ex-BMX riders don't always go to clipless pedals, do they? Or is he on clipless?
No, I think he's actually on clipless there, but you are right with that. British rider Rob Warner tends to just wear training shoes, as you say. They like the fact that they can just step on and off of the pedals without having to fumble around with their pedals.
And there we are, the time coming up then for Florent Poussin of France, riding for the Sun Chippy Company, and across the line 7:06.09 puts him in fourth spot.
Not so bad ride there from Poussin.
Well, the leader at the moment then, Nicolas Vaux, is 6 minutes 53.40 our leader at the moment. Disappearing in the distance then, Andy Böhler of Switzerland, the GT rider. The tremendous time has been put up by Oscar César Castani from Spain. He's now moved into third spot with a 7:05.52. Our race leader at the moment is Nicolas Vöhler with the 6 minutes 53.40 time, and the other man inside the magic 7-minute barrier is Pau Misser, also from Spain. And the
mistake there.
6:59.43 is the time for Pau Misser, and the other time we just had in from the Spanish rider César Castani was 7:05.52. So it looks to me like you've got to get inside 7 minutes to be anywhere, as we're watching the rider from Switzerland, Andy Böhler, on the way down.
I think he let it hang out too much around that corner. You've got to be controlled on some of these sections here. It's no good being totally wild. Another rider not pedalling down this section, saving it for the tarmac. This is where they put it in that big gear and just hammer.
And you also hear the way that those tyres are dragging, because they've got to have so many knobbles on the tyres to get the grip on the way down. It's forming a sort of resistance on the road here, isn't it? They're really having to hurt themselves.
That's
that particular part.
Very painful, very hard as well. Got quite a low down style. And he's using the grip shift there. Company that has tended to dominate the gear changing market recently. Much to a Shimano chagrin, I think, David.
Yeah, I think it was last year. I think 70% of World Championship riders were on the grip shift system. In fact, I always favoured the overbar top shifters anyway. The underbar shifters, you have to push and pull the different ways, and the overbar shifters were ridden for a long time by the rider. Now they're going to the grip shift system. They really have broken Shimano's monopoly. It's still Shimano, the number one when it comes to the actual running gear of the bicycles, although Sachs, I know, are chasing after them now quite strongly in Europe, as Kaprun seems to have disappeared off the seam a bit. But nevertheless, grip shift has shown that they can come up with a very novel device which hasn't got many working parts, so not much to go wrong. And of course, you keep your hands on the bar, a bit like a throttle on a motorbike with little clicks on it.
That's right, but the only problem I ride myself, and the only problem I have with that is if it's really, really muddy, it tends to be quite difficult to change gear. But on a downhill, that's not going to be a problem, only on cross country.
Here he goes then. What's it be for our GT rider? 20 spot 7:17.51, as they say, tapping the side. It will not trouble the judges.
Yeah, that's a little bit slower than his semi-final run. He won't be happy with that, David. I don't know whether he had a problem there, but it looks like he's quite tired.
And again, a different GT bike. We saw the one that Vöhler had with a curved seat tube. So GT seem to be doing very special bikes, as Henning Corrado of Italy, the dark rider, comes down here, and Rob Warner will be up on the top as well, you British viewers. He will be underway. He's due to start at 12:45 Central European time, but unfortunately, with the problem we had with Todd Tanner, it means he'll only just about now be leaving the start house. We hope we have a chance of looking at Rob on the way down, whilst we pick up here Samuel Henning Corrado.
Yeah, he's actually a professional fireman, and he also used to race luge, so he loves speed. Italian national champion.
That's the green, white and red jersey he's wearing there, same as the racing cycles on the road. That's their national colours. And he was 8th fastest in the qualifying round with a time of 7:11.5, and in the semi-finals this morning, they've already ridden down this track this morning quite early on, 7 minutes and 16 seconds was his time. He went a bit slower then, but let's see, we can probably get him inside 7:10, I'd have thought. Again with that wheel underneath his chain wheel to stop the chain jumping up and down.
Doesn't look too powerful on this road section here, David. although this year he's been extremely consistent. He's lined third overall in the series. He's had a third at Åre in Sweden, third at St Anne, fifth at Big Bear, so he's very, very consistent. Knows how to get the best out of a bike. Quite an unflappable style as well. He in fact came first in the Luge World Cup in 93-94, so he's...
Explain what the luge is to people. They probably think he's something like fencing. Oops, he nearly lost it. It's a downhill bobsleigh thing, isn't it? On your
downhill bobsleigh.
On your stomach or on your back? I forget which way it is. On your back, I think, isn't it?
You lie on your back with your feet poking out in front of you. You've got to be a bit of a loony to do that.
Well, this man has got to be a loony to get inside the 7-minute thing. I wonder if he can do it. His time then so far, the best we've had has been his 7:11 in the qualifying round. Here he comes down towards the back end of the course.
He's got to go some to beat Vullios.
And Vullios' time at 6:53.40.
I don't think he's going to do it, David.
Not unless he can fly.
No, he's past that time.
And he could go into third. He has 7:03.43.
Not a bad ride, but I don't think he'll be that happy with it, although he's shaking his fist there. There's a lot of good riders to come, but this is British rider Rob Warner.
Ooh, I like that style. He lunges off the line. And none of these chaps have got an unusual device to stop his chain jumping all around. He rides for the Saracen company, who make their bikes in, I'm not sure it's Kenilworth or Coventry, but it's very close there. And so he's one of the strong, supported teams. They're one of the biggest sponsors, I suppose, of any team back in Great Britain.
Oh yeah, definitely. Biggest sponsors. They got most of the good downhillers. Warner, Steve Peat, Andrew Titley, Helen Mortimer, Sophie Kemp, who's very good as well. But Warner's got a very distinctive style. As you were saying earlier, David, he's not wearing the clip-in shoes, he's wearing his normal trainers.
Or abnormal trainers, because he's one of the few that use them.
I think that's more appropriate. Some people nickname him the caveman, actually.
Well, I remember I was doing the commentary on the on Meterbere 2 years ago on the Downhill World Championship. It was thick and muddy to begin with, and then it dried out a bit towards the end. This man surprised everybody. He didn't even qualify as the British team. He had to go across, so at his own expense, but he was virtually unknown, and he was our best finisher that day.
Exactly, and he was one place in front of John Tomac, which was something to be said.
And isn't he a bit of an odd character?
He is. Well, he likes having a bit of fun, I think, actually, Rob Warner. I mean, he had a brilliant result last year. He came third at Mont St Anne, which is the only podium place that the Brits have got.
Well, his time, got to get inside 7 minutes. He wants to get in the top of the charts today. Rob, he's a very tall fellow. If you look at his very bent leg position, because he's a big bloke and he wants to have that small position on the bike and the down. But I think he's struggling a bit on the flat.
Oh, he looks like it there. This is where it's going to go against you. I mean, he is such a tall rider. He's going to lose a lot of power up that uphill section.
And of course, again, these motorcycle riders who turn to mountain biking. I remember my good friend Tim Flukes, who was an ex-motocross rider, coming to mountain biking, now working for the RockShox company. In fact, he goes around with a van. He's here today sorting out the requirements of some of the riders who ride with the RockShox on their bicycles. He's another ex-motocross rider. They seem to have an eye for this sort of thing, but again, the cycling sections, they have to train for that. There's no motor today.
That's right. Flukesy, like Warner, is very tall, rangy type of rider. Brilliant at handling the bike, but he looks quite smooth today.
Saracen have also been very much involved in sponsoring of cycle racing for some time now. Mick Eyes worked for the company for many years. He was one of the driving forces behind the early teams, and he probably says he's the oldest professional rider in the world. But is he going to get inside 7 minutes? I doubt it this time for Rob.
No, I don't think so. It looks like he's going to be just outside the 7-minute time. Of course, a lot of these riders now are riding with full face helmets. But what's it going to be? It's going to be quite a good time. Wheelies over the line.
He's fourth. 05.29 puts him in fourth. I mean, he really has come on, because that's tremendous really for Rob. He's fourth at the moment, but the lot of good riders yet to come.
11.89 behind Vullios.
on this downhill section. We're looking at the man who always comes up with some unusual gear, Philip Parakis. They used to call him Darth Vader in the old days, that big black gear. Look at him today. Let's hope we have another quick shot of the Swiss rider riding for diesel. I don't know if he drinks the stuff or just puts it on his bike, but he's going some now.
I think if he drunk the stuff, he'd go very slow, but he's at the forefront of technology, definitely in downhill mountain bike racing.
Look at that helmet there as well, eh?
Much like the helmets they use in the time trials, actually. It's fluted at the back there to gain most speed. I don't know whether it will work on a downhill course because you're bobbing about so much, but...
Yeah, there again, they say once you go past, I think it's about 30 miles an hour, Mark, these aerodynamic efficiency here do come into their own, make you very quick indeed. So the care and attention, his body, his clothing is also like they use for downhill skiers. It's got that smooth surface to it, and it looks to me as if it's, I won't say it's inflated, but it's a bit more bulbous, so it allows the air to go around it. It's not body hogging, is it? It's got a nice shape to it.
It looks actually, though, he has actually got some armour on underneath that suit. In fact, I think John Tomac was one of the first riders to use that.
And this fellow's the other one too. They both of them. They used to turn up looking like something out of a science fiction film.
I think it must be a competition between the two of them. You notice he's got something painted on the front of his helmet.
And look at his legs there, behind his calves. He's got an aerodynamic shape coming back, so he just takes the wind behind his leg. Let's have a look again at this unusual outfit ridden by the rider from Switzerland, riding for diesel, Philip Parakis.
Quite a consistent rider, been around a long time now. He came 9th overall in the World Cup in '93. He came 4th at Kaprun in '93 as well, so he knows the course.
Although slightly changes. They take that, in fact, he's probably happy they've taken out the uphill bits. He uses his equipment here to greater effect. There, look at that, Warner in 4th spot. Villa Missa, Hedin Corrado and Warner are the top for 4, and Seis Castani into 5th spot. Seis Castani is the 5th place, but really the two top men so far, Missa and Villa, got inside the 7-minute barrier. Can Parakis do the same thing? I
don't think he can. He looks quite good, but he's got to break that 7-minute barrier. He's a bit quicker than Rob Warner at this stage. Again, not pedalling in this section, letting the bike do the work. Coming around that last bend, he's got to be much faster than that. 6:53, no, he's not going to do it. Can he threaten Warner's time? This is what we want to know. And Rob Warner's time then, the 7:05.49, he's done it. He's pushed into 3rd spot, 7:02.16 for Parakis. Good ride from Parakis there. This is the type of course that he'd love. Let's hope we get a close-up. We couldn't actually have that because they were too busy getting their photographs. I'm sorry. Now, again, the Brits underway. Steve Peat again for Saracen. Had a great season last year, Steve Peat. He won the national championship, the National Points Series in Great Britain, the BNBF National Points Series. He came 3rd at the National Championships. And here he is then at Kaprun on this very intricate course. Steve Peat, he finished in 15th spot in qualifying in 7 minutes 20.88, and in the semi-final we had this morning, he moved up into 10th overall with a time of 7 minutes 14.9. Now we know most of the riders are going anything between 6 and 10 seconds faster, so he should be moving up there, probably challenging for 4th or 5th spot, unless he can pull something out of the bag. Is he mad enough? I think he is actually. He had quite a reputation for falling off before, but he has toned down his style somewhat. I mean, fabulous cross-country rider as well, David. So he's got the fitness for this type of course. This is one of the longer courses on the circuit as well. And he came 12th at the Worlds last year, so he knows how to ride fast. Because the problem with the Brits, though, we don't have the opportunity, unless you're going out over to the Alps or to the Pyrenees or into Austria, to ride these sort of courses. I mean, our mountains, we call them, about like 1/3 of this, aren't they? Exactly. I mean, a lot of our downhill courses are 1.5 to 3 minutes long, so it doesn't really condition you for this type of course. This is where Pete will make up ground. His cross-country experience will help him considerably here. He certainly looked a lot quicker than Rob Warner on that stretch, didn't he? Oh, yeah. Warner looked like he was struggling on that section. I think he should lay off the fags and booze. He'll get you for that. Well, Steve Peat on his way down then, the British rider. We've had 3 of them qualify in the top 50. Jason McCroy was not in the leaderboard at the moment. Rob Warner pushed himself into 4th spot at one position, but he's now being pushed down as the faster men come through. And Steve Peat here qualified 10th fastest in the semi-final this morning. Which was a fabulous ride, really, considering that he was 51st overall in the Grundig World Cup standing, so he really has come on.
Looks like he's liking quite wide bars too, much wider than most of the riders. They don't look like standard mountain bike bars at all.
They're very high rise, almost like the old rally choppers that you used to see.
Yeah, and they're wide too to get plenty of grip and to make sure that he can steer the thing nice, and of course giving plenty of air into his lungs to breathe, because these chaps get very blessed at the bottom, and the time he's got to beat 6:53 of Vull. I don't think he's certainly not going to do that one, but will he get up into the top half dozen?
No, he's not going to beat that. He's not going to break the 7-minute barrier, but what's it going to be for Stephen Peat?
7:03.67 put in fifth spot at the moment.
I should think he'll be fairly happy with that. Yes, he raises his arm in salute there. Knows he's done a good ride. Here we have the brother of Pau Misser, Tommy Misser. Excellent rider from Spain, 20 years old, rides for Klein, same team as his brother.
An intriguing thing about the Missers, they didn't get in the top 20 in the qualifying rounds. They just drove themselves in and waited for the semi-final. This one, Thomas Misser finished 9th this morning in 7 minutes 11.84. And if we go back and look at the time that his brother Pau Misser put up, his brother in fact went some 18 seconds faster than he did in the semi-final this morning. Let's see what this fella can do. If he can go 18 seconds faster, he really is going to rocket into the lead.
Oh, definitely. He's going to love this type of course, because he's very, very good at dual slalom racing as well, so he can let it hang out on the corners here, David. He won the first of the Cours Descenders in Spain, which went with the cross-country, the second round of the cross-country at Real Mazanes, I think it's called. Getting a bit tongue-tied here, he's too exciting, I think. Of course, Misser was second in the Junior Worlds in '91. So he's come on a long way since then. He's still very young, so he's got a lot of time ahead of him.
And we can see here again the way in which they can go across this fast part of the course. We can see one or two struggling, but Thomas Misser going very quickly along that part of the course. Time to make up, and that's one time to make it.
Very nice style, composed on the bike. Watch him round this corner. Trying to keep that back end right down on the ground.
And also he rides for the Volvo Klein people. Klein again very early into the aluminium for mountain bikes and road bikes as well. Some of the Once team from Spain ride the Klein road bikes. So the young rider here from Klein Volvo on his way down, looking very, very smooth. In fact, there's a deception of it all, isn't it? Some of the riders look smooth and you think, gosh, they're going quick.
Oh, definitely. You get someone like Misser, who looks extremely smooth. You get someone like, Beneke, who's quite wild.
He's wild enough not to qualify for the top 50 today.
Indeed. Someone like Frank Roman as well, the French rider.
Yeah, he's yet to come, Frank Roman. In fact, he's the next but one.
This looks like it's going to be a fast time here from Tommy Misser. Looks very good. Will he challenge Vulloz?
And his brother time also is 6:59. Looks like he's going to beat his brother.
Definitely.
6:53.66.
Moves into second spot, only 0.26 of second down on Vulloz. What a fabulous ride from Tommy Misser. That young promise he showed back in 1991 has come through.
And we can see here again a tremendous improvement in time then, something like about 18 seconds quicker. These two really have kept something back all the way through, from qualifying into semi-final, now into the final, and you can see how it hurt him.
Shows that maturity. They're intelligent riders. They're using their heads here.
Somebody from the press is trying to get a statement from him. The poor fellow can hardly get his breath back.
French rider Cedric Gracia.
Oh, he's lost it!
He's lost it!
That just shows you how that gravelly part of the course, the early part of the course, has caught one or two of these riders out going down there. It's a very quick session indeed then, but undoubtedly that gravel track that gets the downhill race off to a fast start has now at that very great speed. He just took it in too close. I see what they try and do. They try and come on the grass, then flick onto the gravel, and he just had nowhere to go except off his bike.
He'll be very disappointed, David. He's recently beaten Vulloz in the French National Championships, so he's obviously a very promising rider. He's got a lot of work to do to make that up now. But he's got to stay controlled. This is where his age has got to count, I think. Got to be sensible here.
He's even gone to the trouble of cutting his number plate in the front, so it's only very narrow to put up the minimum wind resistance. He's done everything possible to get it right and just lost control of the bike at the wrong time.
The hubris of youth, I think you can call that.
Well, he'll live and learn. That's one way you do it, is to learn by your mistake. He's riding for the Sun Chippy Peel, Sun SUNN. They started as a BMX manufacturer in France, and they wanted a different name. They traded under a different name to begin with, and they went for Sun because they thought that could be used across the world. Anybody understand? Of course, they had to put two N's on it because the Sun company was making bikes in Great Britain just after the war. In fact, I had a Fred Parks, which was made by the Sun company many years ago, but they have SUNN here. Don't confuse it with anybody back at home. They're a French company, and this young lad is really rocking on now, isn't he? My goodness.
He really is. He wants to make up the time, but he's a long way behind now. He is actually using disc brakes front and back as well. Perhaps he applied that too early, I think.
I think he just completely rocketed off, pushed it on the pedal, and he accelerated, and down he went. That was it. Kicking an enormous lot of power in. Sitting very low too. Another of these riders in very bent knee position.
And he's riding with one of the new helmets that Giro have been developing recently.
£1,500 each, by the way, I understood. They're the prototypes. So
cheaper the price, David.
Yeah, it's made of a very special material called Dyneema, and they claim to say that it's in fact stronger than Kevlar and about half the weight of any of the carbon fibres as well. And so that's why they've been developing it. But of course, as in any developments, it costs a lot of money. The Americans are all into this all the time. They've got technology behind them from aerospace, and the Americans always come up with these ideas. And Giro having this full face helmet. And we can see why when some of these riders come crashing down, you need that to protect your face. So there we are. He's not going to be happy with that one at all, having had that crash. And he did a 7:11 in the semi-finals this morning. He's going to be outside that.
You can see, I think he's given up slightly. He was playing around there, raising the front wheel, wheeling. He knows he's lost out, 7:23.
So Garcia not happy with that one. Still in the lead is Vulio, 6:53. Frank Roman, the madman himself, on his way down. Another of these ex-BMX riders who throws caution to the wind in this, the final of the Grundig Downhill Cup. It's round 6 here, and we're getting into the top 7 riders. Frank Roman has to now try and beat the time of Nicolas Voulard, who's gone down in 6 minutes, 53.40 seconds.
As you say, David, Frank Roman, one of the wilder riders on the circuit. He won the round in Mont-Saint-Anne, I think it was. Just beating Vullios by 0.02 of a second.
Well, that's the one in Canada, Mont-Saint-Anne, which is the only one left in the World Cup round next year. They've changed the whole thing. We watched Roman go down here. The World Cup next year, sponsored by Grundig, will be in Serra Nevada in Spain, then Livigno in Italy, Mont-Saint-Anne in Canada being kept in the schedules. And we're going over to the east coast of America, then to Les Gets in France, and to finish in Hawaii of all places. And Frankie Roman, one of the older riders in the sport here, plunging along here on his Volvo Canadair. One that looks like one of the older designs of this bike he's got here. Certainly, yeah, playing around with lots of different models recently.
Certainly not the same bike that Missy Jove would be riding in the women's. But Roman, very wild style, but he's a very good technical rider, and he's very powerful as well. He's lying 6th overall in the World Cup standing so far, so a good ride here may take him up into the top 5. He does a brilliant time, he may even win it.
So we've got 3 riders inside the 7-minute barrier so far. Vullo leading 6:53.40. Mr. 6:59.43, just pipped by his brother Thomas Misser.
Oh, and look, it's Roman came off. What a disaster for him. He must have lost 3 or 4 seconds there. Oh, what a shame for Frank. Come on, Frank, put the hammer down.
Well, he said he's a bit wild.
That's the trouble, you know, you're so close to the edge when you're wild. You look at someone like Vullios, he handles it so supremely well. Roman will do well to do a good time here. Very consistent rider. Always been in the top 10 or roundabout in the World Cup. But he's not going to break that 7-minute barrier, David.
Crash like that, not only slowing him down, also just loses that confidence from him. He's 11th spot, 7:06.21.
He'll be very unhappy with that. He knows he's lost a lot of time there. What a shame for Frank. We thought after that win in Montserrat that he would have learned a lesson.
Back up to Alexander Ballard, next to go.
And yet another one of the Sun Chippy riders. 20 years old.
Hope he stays upright like he's made. He has done. He's okay.
He had a blistering season last year. He came 8th overall in the World Cup for a 20-year-old. That's fabulous riding. And he's been extremely consistent this year, so he's not like Frank Roman. He's not too wild. I think you'll tell by his technique here. Yes, keeps it hanging in.
Well, he's been quite consistent so far, as we're watching coming down now, because Ballard was 6th fastest in qualifying in 7:09.70, and in this morning's semi-finals, 7 minutes at 10.50. So he's been very consistent. He's been 6th this morning, 6th in the qualifying as well yesterday. So let's see if he can go a little bit further up the chart today. But some very fast times to be. He's got to be inside 7 minutes if he's going to have any chance of being in the top half dozen today.
Seems to be riding a lot more above his station. He's 12th overall in the World Cup so far this year. So to qualify 7th is a brilliant ride.
And these Sun Chippies, again, chromium plated or polished alloy. They love the polished bikes, the Sun Chippy people. Most of their bikes are chrome and polished like that.
Alex Ballard there. Smooth, unhurried style. Oh, it looks like he's had a problem there with his gearing. Lost a lot of speed on that corner. Oh, the urgency seems to have gone out of him as well. Trouble is, if you lose a second here, a second there on the corners, it really does take its toll on your overall time. Best result so far this year was a cap die. Like a lot of the French riders, he came 7th there. But he was a massive 16.65 seconds behind Vullios. And he's not going to beat Vullios' time today. He's going to have trouble breaking the 7-minute barrier, I think. Coming around that corner, quite gingerly. No, he's going to be just outside. What's it going to be? 7:04.34, he moves into 7th spot. Almost 11 seconds behind Vullios.
Going up then to the start house again as underway now, Jimmy Deaton. Just let me explain to viewers watching our live program, if you came on air with us to begin with, you will see Todd Tanner helicoptered away. In fact, what happened after that, that's why we're virtually running on time now, is that they did not start a lump of riders that afterwards, and they're going to restart them after Miles Rockwell finishes. So we're going to finish our program, those who are watching it live on Sunday afternoon here. As Miles Rockwell finishes, more riders will come down, but they were the slower riders, and we wouldn't expect them to get into the, let's say, top half dozen places. There is one man in there, Stefano Migliorini, who I think is in that back group, and will come down later on, who may get up in the top 10, but he's a very quick rider indeed. But so far his times haven't shown that, but you never know with him. But sorry to not be able to give you the total rundown of the programme, but I think we'll see enough here to know that we've got the victor overall in the Grundig World Cup Series, and of course you'll be able to watch to see who wins today, because I don't think Migliorini would expect to be some of the top 3 or 4 riders, but he might get a bit closer. Just to explain it for you, because we have to be on time, of course, for the Grand Prix at Hungary, where I know a lot of motor racing fans want that one to start on time and wouldn't like the bikes to interfere. But you've got to see the best riders yet to come. Jimmy Deaton on his way down.
Powerful rider, Jimmy Deaton, one of the elder statesmen of downhilling, like Greg Herbold. This type of course would suit him quite well, especially this section here. Very, very powerful. He hasn't done that well on European courses, though, usually, so his 5th place in the semi-final run was a marvellous ride. Rides for the KHS Bolle team. And he was very instrumental in bringing on Miles Rockwell. He's won the Kamikaze downhill event in America 5 times in all. So he knows how to ride fast.
And Miles Rockwell won it this year, the Kamikaze too, didn't he?
Indeed.
And the other GT Kamikaze and the the Reebok Eliminator. So we got Miles Rockwell coming off last of all. So let's see how this man compares against him.
In fact, it was in 1993 on the same course as the Kamikaze that Miles Rockwell beat our own Jason McCroy to second place in the dual eliminator.
Yeah, well, that's Jason. We haven't got his time, but he's not in the top 10 at the moment. Jimmy Deaton on his way down in the qualifying rounds. He's 5th fastest in 7:09.40 and 7:10 with his time this morning in the semi-finals. He looks a little sluggish at the moment. He might just get inside the 7 minutes.
I don't know. I think he's looking quite good, actually, David. He's not going to beat Vullios, but he might get inside that 7 minutes. Come on, Jimmy. That's it. He is going to do it. Brilliant ride. 3rd place for Jimmy Deaton. 3.39 seconds behind Vullios.
He just seemed a bit slow at that time, didn't he? Composing himself that last rush, because I suppose you can overcook it on that one. Francois Gachet, the world champion, next to go. Riding number 4, 4th overall at the moment in the World Cup Series. Underway.
And what a season he had last year, Francois Gachet, David. He's the only rider to have won the World Cup and the World Championships in the same season. He had such a good season last year. He won 4 events in all, came second in another, and then just didn't finish the last one.
Well, motorcycle fans would like to know this man rides a Harley-Davidson. No engine powering him today, just his 2 legs, but he's crazy enough to go flat out down. A rock drummer, mountain biker, and Harley-Davidson fan. The world champion on his way down.
Fabulous rider and quite rare for a downhiller. He's 28, he's in his late 20s, so he's quite old, I'm afraid to say.
Thank you. In fact, in the qualifying, he was 4th fastest, 7:05.14 in the semi-final this morning, 7:06.42. He knows he's got to get inside 7 minutes. We've had 4 riders break 7 minutes so far. Can the world champion, 4th overall in the Grundig World Cup, pull one out of the bag today and beat Nicolo Vullios' time of 6:53.40?
He'd have to be going very well to do that. He hasn't had as good a season this year as he did last year. This section is going to suit him quite well today, though. Oh, he's looking down his bike. Is he having a problem there, Gachet? He's had 2 4ths and a 3rd so far this season, so he won't be as happy as he was last year. But he knows how to handle a bike at speed.
Interesting, he takes an inside line there. Most others were using the outside line as a berm, like the old mountain bike berm, as a BMX berm, to get the bike cranked round. It wasn't, he was trying to come on the inside.
Probably trying to save a second here, a second there.
Again, the disc brake on the front, working overtime to slow down the speed of these riders, hitting 50 miles an hour on parts of descent. Then they come on just a walking pace around the little left-hander like we've got here. They've got to accelerate out again.
That's where they've got to put the power down. But they've got to be careful. They don't want to lose it like Missa did earlier on. And it looks quite good. He's got to get to the top of that section in 6:50. Gachet's looking hot. It's going to be very tight. I don't think he's going to beat Vullios' time, but he's definitely going to beat 7 minutes, I think.
Well inside it, so he comes thundering in here, and it's going to be 6:57, and he's 4th.
4th place, yet another 4th place for Gachet.
It's consistent, this. He's wearing number 4. He was 4th fastest in qualifying. He's 4th fastest in the semi-finals, and now he's 4th at the moment. But there's some fast men to come. Mike King on his way, then Fruith, and then Rockwell. It's a BMX champion, this fella. Look, he's just like a BMX rider going over here, isn't he?
Brilliant. No padding. Doesn't care, Mike King. He's had a good season this year. Blasted on the scene in '93. Won the World Championships in the mud at Metivier. Look at him. No protection at all, it doesn't look like. I think this man is what the Americans would call focused.
Yep, and I remember seeing what ride in Bercy and the indoor thing then when he won that. He was going tremendously well because his BMX training came in good for him too, but he just looks so smooth, doesn't he?
And he knows all he's got to do is beat Vullios. Vullios knows that as well. Whoever finishes higher is going to win the World Cup overall.
So the reigning leader with Vullios in the World Cup. They both had 168 points to start the competition today. Vullios' time that he's got to beat to take the World Cup is 6:53.40. He has to beat that one. They're tying on points at the moment, going into the final. This is the final of the Grundig World Cup.
And don't forget, of course, they are teammates on the same team, so I don't think their sponsors will be unhappy with whoever wins.
But Mike King, I know, would like to say America's back on top because Europeans have been doing so well in downhill mountain biking now. He's got to say, look, we in America can still produce a hat from the bag occasionally.
That's right, they've tended to dominate last season and this season, which has put the American noses slightly out of joint. When Todd Tanner won in Mount Snow, he said a few controversial things. He said this was for the Yanks.
Well, let's see if a Yank can get this one now. We've already seen Gachet come down, the reigning champion for the Grundig Series, the world champion. He's not in with a shout. Now, he did get inside the 7 minutes barrier at 6:57, but really this man's got that 6:53.40 to beat. Otherwise, the crown goes to the young Frenchman.
Don't forget, he's got to get to the top of that last bend by about 6:45, I think you'll find, David. He's on the last section now.
Again, you see, just jumps his bike very quick back down onto the earth, doesn't he?
Get the power down straight away. No flamboyance here. King wants to win this. He's got to do very well, though.
See how he crouches low, makes himself aerodynamic.
He's got 10 seconds to get inside that. I don't think he's going to do it. Doesn't look like he's going to be very tight, David.
6:53.40 to beat.
No, he hasn't done it.
Third, 6:55.46.
He knows he's lost the World Cup.
Well, he punched the air, but he's a couple of seconds slower than Vullios. He's got the white jersey on as the Grundig World Cup leader. He was tying on points with Nicholas Vullios as they came into this round here. But according to our calculations in the commentary box here, he's not going to be the Grundig World Cup victor this year. It's going to the young Frenchman because we've got Marcus Fruith yet to go.
No, it looks like Fruith has got a problem. His tyre's come off, his front tyre. Oh, what a shame for Fruith. What a fabulous ride he had in the semi-finals, David.
Ah, 7:04.24, hoisted himself up there. He was the Austrian champion last year, and he surprised everybody by his performance. He rides that heavy tool company, and he must have got something terribly wrong there. And it's going to be a great disappointment for the Austrians, really, to come into the into this final.
It looks like he's got a front tyre puncture. Oh, what a shame. After such a fabulous ride. Somehow, though, I think you might see more of this chap on the circuit.
The winner of the mountain bike tour of Switzerland. We're actually having a mountain bike tour of France as well this year. That's coming up at the end of August. We've yet also got to have the cross-country rounds of the Grundig World Cup and, of course, the World Championships in mountain biking yet to take place. So on Eurosport, bringing you lots of mountain biking, all the best of the mountain bike events you can see on Eurosport, and we've got a lot more to go before the season ends. But this man, Marcus Fruith, who will be very disappointed with that. And there they're standing at the moment, Vullios, Misser, King, Deaton and Gachet. Vullios will take the white jersey as the overall World Cup victor for the Grundig, which is round 6 today at Kaprun.
Yes, that's right. Although we've got Miles Rockwell to come, and he's lying 5th overall in the World Cup. He can't overtake Vullios now.
He got 50 points, adding on to his score so far, 136 to take him 180 something. But Vullios going to be maybe second. No, there's no way he can lose it, is it?
No way.
It's a sort of precarious position to watch the bike race because he's sat on top of the roof. It's painful too. Well, we're having this little delay because Marcus Fruith is walking his way down here. Miles Rockwell yet to go. Our last rider to come down the mountain here at Kaprun in the Pinzgau Valley, some 80 miles from Salzburg, a beautiful part of the world here with the Kitzenhorn Glacier in the background. We had a chance of looking at that one just a moment or so ago. And if you come to this neck of the woods too, there's lovely Lake Zell not far away from here where you can have windsurfing, swimming and sailing all available to you. Nice part of the world. Of course, those who go skiing know it very well indeed for the for the winter sports. But it sounds to me like we're getting Miles Rockwell underway and the crowd beginning to cheer here. The last man to go, Miles Rockwell. And then after this, by the way, when Miles Rockwell's gone, we are going to have those 9 men that did not come down the mountain after that crash to Todd Tanner, but they are not going to be a serious threat to any of the top half dozen place, I don't think. And certainly the battle for the Grundig World Cup jersey has now been resolved with Vulo coming out the winner. Miles Rockwell, the last man on the track before we go to those 9 that were stopped following Todd Tanner's accident.
Rockwell's going to love that start to this course. Gets down in the tuck position. This is where he can use his size and strength to his advantage. He's had such a good year so far. He's had a 5th, a 3rd, a 6th, a 4th. So consistent. Best American rider so far, apart from King. But he's not going to overtake Vulos or King in the overall. But he could win this event here today. He'd love that, I'm sure. He's had 1 podium finish, 3rd at Mount Snow, behind his teammate Todd Tanner. In fact, that was an American clean sweep, 1st round in America. That was where the Yanks got their own back.
So Miles Rockwell, 14th in qualifying in 7:19.58. This morning came the fastest man down this in the semi-final. He came down in 7 minutes, 2.91 seconds. He now knows that Vulo has gone some 10 seconds faster than that, 9 and a bit to be precise, or not so precise. So he's got to pull something from the bag here and really let fly on this bottom part of the course. The time checks will be coming into him, and he's really putting the pressure. Very tall fellow here. What a great contrast in style between Miles Rockwell and Vulo. But the time is 6:53.40 to beat.
As you say, he's a very tall, strong rider. He won the Reebok Eliminator and the Kamikaze Downhill in America, 2 of the most prestigious events in the downhill calendar. Simply blasted the opposition.
Suspension working overtime. He's got a lot of travel up the front there. There must be nearly 3 inches of travel as Rockwell's on his way down, 6:53.40 to beat. Sorry about I lost the picture at the moment. We got him back on screen. Double disc brakes for the Volvo Cannondale rider. Last of the really fast men to come down here.
Looking very good so far, Miles Rockwell. Not only consistent in the World Cup and in the World Championships as well. He's looking fast. Getting down in that tuck position. This is where he doesn't want his height. He's looking good. He's got about 10 seconds to beat Vulos' time. He's definitely going to get under 7 minutes. What's it going to be? It could be the winning time. It is. Fabulous ride from Rockwell. He gets on the podium. Brilliant ride for the Volvo Cannondale rider.
2.5 seconds faster than Vulo. That is unbelievable to come down that quick in 6:51.34. That was one really that we enjoyed all the way down. He looked smooth, he looked good, and he really hit it towards the end. He's elated with that one, as well he might be. He's going to be some celebrating the old town tonight for this man. The Americans know how to celebrate too. Whoopee!
Good ride.
Miles Rockwell, the American rider, having come down in 6:51.34, winning the round 6 in the Grundig World Cup Series at Kaprun. He's elated with that one. It won't put him up into the overall leadership of the World Cup Series this year, but certainly he'll be closing the gap on the other riders just above him, because he got himself 50 points for that one, and Mark here will do some very quick calculations as we look then in the background down the valley, and there's confirmation that Rockwell, Vulo, Mr. King and Deaton, the running order. The Americans coming back with a bang because they took 1st, 4th and 5th places, and just Nicky Vulos and Thomas Misser in there for representing Europe. So the Americans really kept themselves the back end of the season.
They certainly have. They kept their best for last, I think. What will they do in the World Championships? This is what we want to know, David. A fabulous ride by Rockwell. We didn't think they could do it on this type of course. It was a shame because someone like Beneke could have done well, who didn't qualify, of course. There's his teammate Frank Roman.
And if I could just put this in perspective, by the way, if you haven't been listening to all our programme, I said earlier on, this is a 4.5 mile descent in 6.8 kilometres as regards kilometre measurement, but that works out 4.5 miles. To come down in 6 minutes and 45 seconds is to average 40 miles an hour. He's just come down in 6 minutes, 51.34. He's just that, 5 seconds or so outside 40 miles an hour, so as near as down a 40 mile an hour descent from the top of that big mountain. And that was a drop of some 804 metres all the way down. Had to pedal, as you saw, on parts of the course, but to give you some idea of the speed of these descenders.
Of course, yeah, I mean, that is on the fast sections. Think of the speed he will lose on the corners, David, and you'll be amazed at what they will do on those long sections.
Yeah, so if you got a chance to go out and watch them downhill in Europe, just stand well back and watch them come thundering by, because they go at a great rate of knots. And I must say that having watched these young men, my congratulations go out to them, because you can see here how far they've come down. We're looking now at Villas, who has come down this mountain. He set the fastest time of 6:53.40. We're looking then at the man who is going to take over the white jersey as the overall victor in the World Cup, because Mike King, who was level on points with him going into this final, could not come down as fast as this flying Frenchman, whose time of 6:53.40 set the benchmark for everybody before Miles Rockwell managed to pip into the post. But he is a champion. He's going to be the Grundig World Cup winner for 1995.
And don't forget, of course, this is his first year of senior riding. Last year, he was still a junior, David.
So we're going to see a lot more from that young man. And as the crowd then start to work their way home down the bottom of the cloak, there's still the ladies' championship yet to come. We're not going to be covering that one. We've got the Grand Prix covering up later on, but I hope you've enjoyed our live programme, those who listen to us live in the Sunday afternoon. And there are the campsites. Some tremendous spectators come out to these big events now. Mountain biking undoubtedly has taken off, not only as a competitive sport, but a spectator sport too as well. And Grundig are continuing to sponsor their World Cup series. And so that's been a very, very good day, but sadness with Tom Tanner having that crash. Well, the Formula One, the Hungarian Grand Prix will be coming up next live on Eurosport, whilst here at Kaprun we've been seeing live action of the downhill with Miles Rockwell coming out the victor in a fantastic time, 6 minutes 51.34. Just a fraction outside 40 miles an hour, but young Nicolas Hulot of France is the overall victor of the Grundig UCI Mountain Bike World Cup Series for 1995. He doesn't look too troubled there, does he, Mike? He's got his breath back.
Doesn't look like that was much trouble at all. He's talking to English journalist there, Paul Skilbeck. He looks very content. As you can see, he's a big, strong rider.
And the heavy breathing still there, because although downhills go, anybody can do it. You can't. You've got to have skill. You've also got to have speeding legs too, and use his supreme strength on the flatter parts of the course. As we now have then the overall rankings in the Grundig World Cup for Nicky Hulot, as we said earlier on, is confirmed as victor, 222 points ahead of Mike King. A bit disappointed with his performance today. Miles Rockwell moved up into third spot by that ride of his. He was lying fifth this morning, just behind Francois Gachet. Gachet dropping back into fourth behind him, but Hedin Corrado up there into fifth spot. He dropped out from third before. So Hulot is the champion, King second, Rockwell third, Gachet fourth, and Hedin in fifth. The mist in the background and the hills of Austria have seen some marvellous activity here in the Grundig Mountain Bike World Cup. And that then concludes the season's racing, brought to you on Eurosport for the downhill section of the World Cup. We've got the cross country yet to come and the World Championship as well. So for Mark and myself, David Duffield, it's time to say to you all back at home, bye-bye. Glad to have you with you. Cheers.
The Mountain Bike World Cup was brought to you on Eurosport by Shimano.
Shimano, the original bike components.
And Isostar.
Time to settle back for the latest instalment in the Schumacher Hill saga. It's the Hungarian Grand Prix with our top two, John Watson and Ben Edwards.
the original bike components.
Grundig Performing Arts. 10.000 kleine Explosionen im Blut.
It's here where the battlefields have names like Mammoth, Kirchgarten, and Camp Die that legends are made and forgotten.